Hi and welcome everybody to another session of Chatting with Canadians. My name is Michelle and I'm an intern at UNAM Canada. I'm here with Maxime. He's a franco-ontarian guy and also a student communication. Hi Maxime, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Michelle?
I'm doing great as well. We are going to talk today about cultural diversity in Canada. First of all, in your opinion, Maxime, what's meant by cultural diversity in Canada?
Well, in my opinion, cultural diversity is our society when they are sharing together as one multiple communities. It can come, yes, to cultural diversity as in culture, but also as in different ethnic groups and also different religious views I see. And the whole purpose is to stay together as one and to work together and to live together as a community and to share our resources.
Okay. I also understand that you worked for Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada. Could you tell us what kind of activities you did there?
Yes, so it was an intern that I did from May 2018 till this March 2019. And I did, yes, work for Indigenous Affairs in Northern Canada. But I had a branch called Indigenous Services Canada, which is a ministry. And what I did is I was reporting to Canadians living outside Indigenous communities and also inside the communities about the investments that the government does in collaboration with the Indigenous communities together regarding infrastructure. So everything regarding school facilities, everything about cultural activities, everything that could touch also housing. We were there to report Canadians and to be the most transparent possible about it.
Okay. Wow, that sounds really interesting.
It was great. Yeah, it was great.
And yeah. And why did you decide to work in Indigenous Affairs?
The reason why is because as myself, I do have indigenous ancestors, which are Mohawks in the region of the community of Kanesatake in Oka, Quebec. But me, as myself from Ontario, I always wanted to know more about indigenous cultures, indigenous societies, which could be also pre-colonial times until yes today. And I wanted to know what were the issues during yes in a historical time, but also in our modern days, how Indigenous people and Canadians that are non-Indigenous can collaborate together. And I was looking forward to see what are the progress in the reconciliation between Canada and the communities.
Well, so now that you are talking about reconciliation, for those who don't know what's reconciliation, could you explain what it is and also what's being done in Canada to reach reconciliation?
Yes, so we have to turn back until when the first colonies came in Canada. So at first we did had I'll say it, we had dark chapters, and we still work towards you know getting better into it. We did have schools for indigenous people, which completely try to, I quote, kill the Indian in them. It was a genocide, cultural genocide. And they have so many other chapters also about just how the colonies in Canada did try to defend themselves as being more modern, but which was more the case to push back indigenous cultures and identities. And how do we try to restore that? Well, by working with the indigenous people, we do really, really believe in their, well, they are the people who are eligible to speak up about their, all their realities. And how concretely we did this? Well, I believe by working together with indigenous people to make sure how we can progress together, how can we be as in unity, and how can we give them back their independence as they always wanted. And we do try to raise awareness to non-Indigenous Canadians how history impacted those communities, and we try to showcase to them the culture um, for a good reconciliation. And this is only what I do know currently. They
Okay.
have much more attempts for the reconciliation.
Okay. And in your opinion, is that good, or what do you think it could that it could be improved in the way that cultural diversity has been understood in Canada?
Absolutely. So what's going on is that I believe we do have a good intention to uh, give back their voices, to showcase them, but we have to remember that they are the ones who did experience those experiences. We are not eligible, I think, to speak on their behalf. So we have to raise more their voices and to give them this independence, and not us taking uh, all the victories only to ourselves, saying that we did the reconciliation, which is absolutely not true. We we want to work together. This is what I believe, and this is how we can improve. And by saying the realities of the communities, be more open and to share their stories with their consent, I think this is one step forward that could be tremendously uh, considerable.
Okay. Um, so now, is there any anecdote that you would like to share about an experience that has changed the way that you perceive cultural diversity, or that it has changed the way that, sorry, your perspective about this topic?
Yes. So growing up in Hawkesbury, we only have franco-ontarians. So first of all the Ontarians speak French here, and so there was not a lot of place for us to know more about other cultures, which can be also, just English, French, Canadians, but also different ethnic groups. We are majorly white here in Hawkesbury, and I do recognize that in my childhood, in our schools, we did not have the chance to be more aware of other cultures. So coming to study in Ottawa, it was really a step forward for me, just in my personal knowledge as a human being, to understand more the realities in our society. And it really gave me the excellent challenge of a lifetime for me, a great opportunity to work very hard to, you know, uh, being able to share your thoughts and feelings, and making friends with different communities and diverse members of our society. And it was a great opportunity. And the things I've learned a lot also from all those people's background. It's great because you can you can learn more of just how we can live together as one, and to be an ally between each other.
Okay. Now I would like to ask you something. You as a as an student communication, sorry, as a communication student. So these times have been very peculiar. So, in your opinion, what are the challenges faced by cultural promotion nowadays,
Oh, yeah.
considering the essential role of virtual communication?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. I just from my background, I do know and I do recognize does not directly impact me, but only from what I've had the chance to learn from my friends who are from different cultural backgrounds. They told me, well, between friends, it's great to have, uh, this chance to speak as what we do right now, to have the time to look up for each other and to learn more about each other, knowing what are some struggles that you're facing currently, some challenges that you've had a victory on, and yeah, also from the cultural aspect. I did heard from the media from time to time that it could be hard during those times because since the confinement make us more hard to raise our voices. It could be quite challenging, but thanks to social media and technology, I think this challenge could be restored.
Okay, nice. And also, from your perspective, what can be done from educational centers such as schools or universities to contribute to the recognition of cultural diversity?
Yes. So as I said, when I during my childhood, during in schools, I did not unfortunately have this opportunity, and so what would I suggest to the schools in my country and in my own province, Ontario, is to give special days to have events to speak loudly and clearly about diversity and cultural different aspects, because you have to make understand, I believe, our children that, well, we do have cultural diversity in Canada. Canada is a nation based on immigration, and we have to recognize that because I only speak for certain people only, but some people tend to forget that. And our nation is not just, well, the co-founders of French people and the English people, which they did had a struggle between each other, but it doesn't end there. The indigenous people, the Inuit, the different people who came here in Canada, sharing our dreams, sharing our opportunities. We have to acknowledge this in our school at a very young age so that when people live together, once they have to do it in their duties and life duties, well, we will be prepared and we will be aware.
Okay. So now, do you know anything about Mexico? I mean, uh, have you heard anything about the cultural diversity in Mexico, and what do you know?
I do know about some cultural history knowledge. I do have a big knowledge for well, passion for history, I mean. And I do know that Mexico was, well, like Canada, have indigenous people. I do know about I do only know the major empires, such as the Aztec and Mayas, but I did try to make my research, and you know the Spanish colonies, and the uh, the history issues that happened also in Mexico. I did my research recently, and I've seen that as of cultural diversity in Mexico, it tends to be Hispano indigenous people that are living together. 10% of
Okay.
in Mexico are Caucasian, and I've seen in one of my researches. Excuse me if the numbers aren't right, maybe, but I've seen that also 20% of the population in Mexico is are identified as indigenous, and I think this is great. It's great to have this those moments to share culture, and I do know also some pop culture about Mexico. I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do like lucha libre, so that's great.
Okay.
Yeah. But regarding about cultural diversity, I really look forward to know more about current issues in Mexico that could be great to know, and also more about historical background that I think that you can't have not enough knowledge about the past.
Yeah, and I think also that one common thing that we have Mexico and Canada is that our history it's really complex. So
Yeah.
yeah. And now to finally, what do you think Mexico can learn from Canada, or what Canada can learn from Mexico about cultural diversity?
Well, I'll start for my what Canada can learn from Mexico. So I think what we can learn a lot from Mexico is that in Mexico, you guys are so proud of your historical background when it comes to indigenous people. You have, just for instance, Chichen Itza. I know that in Canada we do not have buildings of those sorts, but what do I mean is that you guys really took the moment and time to restore those historical places and to give them awareness, and to represent them equal in their whole aspect of what is Mexico based on.
Okay.
And this is, I think, what we can learn a lot from Mexico as a Caucasian, and as cultural diversity, how to live together more as one. This is, I do believe, a big step that we can learn.
Okay.
What I think Mexico can learn from Canada. Again, I do not have a lot of background about Mexico society, but I believe what maybe you guys could learn maybe from our past, our mistakes, what we've done wrong, just as of cultural diversity, and what we are currently doing to, do reconciliation. I think with our current government, we are focused on reconciliation a lot more than the previous years, and to understand, that Canada, we did a lot of struggles too, because one of our our last residential school, was abolished in 1995 only, which is very recent.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah. That's so interesting and also surprising. But
Yeah.
thank you, Maxime, for your time. It was very interesting to talking to you, and also it was my pleasure to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to chat with you and was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And thank you everybody for watching this. Please let us know your comments or questions. We would like to read them. Thank you.
Merci.